Hello, I am Carla Cannon, the author of the new book, The Power in Waiting. I am so excited, you guys. It sounds so funny. Me and my sister was just jumping up and down today, and she was like, oh my God, you're an author. And it's so amazing because I was calling myself an author before I actually wrote a book. So I tell each of you out there that whatever it is that you believe in God for, whatever He's called you to do, go ahead and begin to say what God said. You know, speak what He speaks, and God will manifest that thing. And that brings us to my new book, The Power in Waiting. I wanted to share, to answer some of the questions that some people may have asked, as far as what is the book about. You know, a lot of people, even today in my mom's store, it was so funny. It was a lady, and my auntie began to share with her that her niece, which is myself, had just written a book called The Power in Waiting, and immediately the girl was like, well, I'm married, you know, and so I heard that, and I said, listen, I said, that's the funny part. I said, my book is not about waiting on God for a mate. I said, my book is about what to do when what God says, when what He said does not line up with what you see. I'm going to ask you that again. What do you do when what God said does not line up with what you see? And she said, and I said, exactly. I said, my book is all about the process, which is in between the promise and the manifestation. So often in life, we are believing God for things. And, you know, some of you may be believing God to save a loved one, or for your business to take off, or for your ministries to grow, or to save a loved one, or whatever the case may be. But you have to know that God is going to do just what He said, but there's power in waiting. Even in that process, even those that are waiting on a spouse. Chapter 4 is entitled Single But Not Alone. So I didn't leave the single people out because I am a single woman of God myself. And so I know the struggle. So I dedicated that chapter in this chapter, Single But Not Alone, just for the singles. And so I share intimate details as far as the struggles that we endure, but how you have to know that, yeah, you may be single, but there's still a process. And God is shaping, making, and molding you to be who He wants you to be so you can be a good spouse. I remember, it's so funny, I used to really love Keisha Cole. That was my girl, you know, love, you know, that song, that used to be my jam. But there was one song she had, and it was called You Complete Me. And I began to listen to the words, and see, I don't get so moved by the beat. I really listen to the words and songs. And the song was basically saying how this guy completed her. And I said, no, that's not Bible. I said, Colossians teaches us, the book of Colossians in the Bible tells us that we are complete in Christ. So that's another thing I discussed in my book in chapter 4 for you singles, is I tell about how two whole people make up one marriage. So it's not that you are half, he's half, and you guys become one. That's the problem. That's why our divorce rate is so high. And that's why so many people are in these unfulfilled relationships, because you look for your spouse to fulfill you when your ultimate fulfillment comes from Christ. I can say, as a single woman, I am just, now don't get me wrong, I have my moments. But overall, I'm so at peace with just me and the Lord, because I know that if my husband has not shown up yet, then that means that I'm really not, God's not ready for me to have a husband. Because if He was ready, how many times have we said, well, I desire X, Y, Z, and God, I'm ready for it, I'm ready. But if we were really ready, then it would be here. So obviously, if God hasn't allowed whatever it is we're waiting for to be manifested in our life, then obviously He's still preparing. He's still processing us. He's still defining us, you know. And so those are things I discuss in my book. Even in chapter 1, I talk about understanding prophecy. You know, chapter 2, I talk about embracing the process. You know, each of us have a story. You know, we all, Romans says that all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord and are called according to His purpose. So what you have to know is that everything that may be going on in your life right now, even though it may seem or appear to be chaotic, God is just reorchestrating some things. And it's all a part of the process. Had it not been for the things that I've gone through in my life, I would not be able to sit down and write a book. I had to literally, listen to me, hear me now. I had to literally walk out every page of my book. It was so painful. I cried. I shared so many tears, and that's why I believe so many people are being blessed, because I really put my heart into this book, and I said, Lord, I'm not afraid. When God called me to be transparent, And he began to tell me, you have to share this struggle that you once had to let people know that they can become free. So my book is ministry. It's 1,000% to draw people back into God. It's 1,000% to encourage believers to stay on that straight and narrow, because the word of God says that few find that straight and narrow, but the broad and way, so many people are finding it. So that's why I want to encourage you about the power in waiting, whether you're waiting on your deliverance, whether you're waiting on a spouse, whether you're believing God for his promises to be manifested. You have to know that God can, God will do it. Something so powerful right now is happening. My assistant is recording me, and she is standing there, and she's there with tears in her eyes are running down her face. And I tell you, when I say I know the power of God, if it can touch those that are close to me, and see, let me tell you something. It doesn't mean anything to go out and impact a nation if people around you are dying. We have to remember that ministry starts at home. Don't go out encouraging everybody else. Don't go out encouraging the world if people around you are discouraged. Start in your circle. Start in your circle of friends. And so as I'm sitting here, my assistant, tears are literally, and my assistant is also my sister, and tears are literally running down her eyes, and she's just recording me talk to you. Oh my God, the power in waiting. You guys go get this book. Bless someone with it. Purchase it for someone else. It's only $3.99 on Kindle. And I promise you it will transform your life. Know that God has a purpose. God has a plan. And if he can use me, baby, he can use you too. God bless you. Email me, Carla@womenofstandard.org. Go to Amazon.com and purchase my new book, The Power in Waiting. God bless you, and I love you. Thank you so much for your support.